Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Project Delta. If this is your first time here, please make sure that you've listened to the English audio track first so you can understand what's going on. Because, yeah, this episode has now taken the place of episode 1, which you will no longer be able to find. If you didn't get the chance to see it, I'm really sorry, but now you get to enjoy episode 2. And I want to start this episode off with a few updates. For starters, at the end of episode 1, I stated that episode 2 would come out on March 5th. However, I didn't specify a time. I realized that might have led to a bit of confusion for this episode's release, so I'll be sure to specify that in the future. For most episodes, it'll likely be around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. However, as I discussed in the English audio track, it does take a bit of time for YouTube to process the new audio, meaning that the time may vary by about half an hour to an hour. Now that we have that out of the way, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's watched the first episode. The response has been truly incredible. Honestly, I wasn't sure how well a YouTube video without any video would actually do, so the fact that it's still done as well as it has, despite the slower pace and the lack of visuals, has been incredible. I'm excited that so many people have decided to join me on this little experiment. But I don't just want these episodes to be centered around the fact that these are episodes in a series that gets deleted. I actually want them to have a unique identity all to themselves. Of course, though, no matter how much effort I put into these, or no matter how high of a quality they are, they're still going to have a limited life. In reality, though, everything has a limited life. For a while, people said that the internet was forever, but every year that's proven more and more a lie. All it takes is a quick scroll through Wikipedia's sources to see how many links lead to nowhere and how many websites have just disappeared. Archivists can do a lot to help, but they can't do everything. And even those archives have to have that data stored somewhere. All it takes is one accident for an archive to lose a massive amount of data. Active conservation is the only way to truly extend the life of something, but even that is an illusion. One day the Internet Archive won't exist anymore. YouTube won't exist anymore, and as crazy as it may be to believe, the global internet won't either. Now, I can't predict the future and tell you when that will be, but it will happen. Everything has a ticking clock on it. Time doesn't slow down for anyone or anything. So don't let the internet lure you into a false sense of immortality. There will be a day when someone plays my video for the last time. And that's okay. An important thing to remember, though, is if you spend all of your time with things from the past, then we make no time for things in the present or the future. I love old Disney movies. I grew up watching them, and I'd love for my kids to one day grow up watching them as well. But I also want them to hear new stories, and they only have time for so many movies in their life. I mean, if you look at Hollywood now, the only thing they seem to want to make is sequels and reboots, continuing the same stories that have been told countless times already. But they're taking energy and resources away from new stories that may never get the chance to be told. We can't and shouldn't allow the past to dictate the future. But in the end, no matter how much those stories are remade, they'll have their last telling as well. But if those old stories are lost, new ones can be told. Time doesn't necessarily degrade or get rid of things, it changes them. The dinosaurs had to go extinct for humans to one day exist, after all. Resisting that change takes energy, can only work for so long, and prevents what those things could have changed into from existing. Now, am I saying that we should just give in to the sands of time? Of course not. Preservation is still very important, and not just from an archival or cultural perspective, but from a knowledge perspective as well. One of the biggest setbacks in human development wasn't some plague or war, but the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. Not just because of all the massive amounts of history that were lost, but the amount of scientific and philosophical knowledge that was lost and had to be rediscovered centuries later. That's what decentralized and secure archives are supposed to prevent, but they can't prevent everything, so it's just an illusion. Once you start to look into what's keeping so many seemingly indestructible things from collapsing, you begin to realize just how fragile everything is. Ironically, though, believing something's indestructible or infinite can also lead to its ultimate destruction. The passenger pigeon, for example, was a bird that had numbers so large that during their migration, they would block out the sun. Their numbers were so massive that nobody thought a bit of hunting would make a dent. But it did, and in 1914, the last passenger pigeon died, and the species went extinct. So remember while you're watching this, that for these videos, you're fortunate enough to know when they will no longer exist. And I know that many people will also likely try and find ways to archive these videos to make them last forever. But that's because you know they have a finite amount of time to be saved. But how many things out there have an invisible timer that's slowly ticking down till 0 without anybody realizing? Why should this or any other thing that has a set timer on it get such a treatment? There are likely so many things that are far more important that are disappearing forever right now without anyone realizing. So please, don't archive this. Instead, find something that is valuable to you and acknowledge that whatever it is, it has a timer on it as well. You just don't have the luxury of seeing it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes. Episode 3 will be releasing March 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. The upcoming track is from my friend Connor. You can find his stuff linked in the description if you're curious.